Okay, thank you so much. I want to get started. I'm going to talk a little bit louder. I'm in front of an air conditioner, so hopefully that won't disrupt us too much. Give us a little light so you can hopefully see me a little bit better. My name is Jim Smith, and I'm very excited to welcome you to our Smart Train to American Recovery. And we really look at this as our STAR initiative, which is the acronym. And this webinar is really focused on those who've been impacted by COVID or who find themselves transitioning from one career to another. If you've been in retail or hospitality or transportation, you may have been in an opportunity where, or career where that the business is no longer available or not there. And so what we want to do as an organization is talk a little bit about how we can help those who are transitioning. So this is an informational session, and so it really is designed to answer your questions. So please, at any point in time, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll address those. Those that we may not get to during this session, we certainly will be able to respond to them afterwards. So as I said, my name is Jim Smith. I'm the CEO of Kinetic Potential. And I thought in terms of the best way to start off our presentation, our webinar today, is to tell you a little bit about my background and a little bit about Kinetic Potential and what we as an organization, what our mission is and what we're trying to achieve and why we're holding these webinars and why it's important to us. So first, I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I always like to share with people that I grew up in, started out in low-income housing, and Bridgeport is a community for those of you who are in the DC area that's like Baltimore and many other cities across, urban cities across the country. It has its challenges, and particularly as we move from a textile manufacturing economy into more of a service-based economy, and as the digital revolution took hold, a lot of individuals in Bridgeport really found themselves being left behind. And I was really fortunate that I had an opportunity to participate in a lot of development programs. So what you see here underneath my name is my path into entrepreneurship. I got bused to school and took me from a school system where there were only 50% of the population graduating from high school, less than that, obviously, matriculating and graduating from college. There's a statistic that you see here underneath the social problem that we're focusing on. Only 10% of low-income youth will graduate from college. And you see at the end of my
path here, my career path, that I am a Wharton alum. And so that's a Six Sigma event. So when I think about what really enabled me to transition from being in an environment where most students don't even graduate from college, right? Less than 10% of the folks will graduate from college, let alone go to one of the elite schools, which was transformational. Like, how can we actually make that much more systematic? And this was really my path in terms of beginning to think about career pathways and developing an organization that can support individuals, particularly folks who reminded me of myself. Someone who, just based on their zip code, was in an environment that they didn't have the best opportunities. The cards were already stacked against them. So I really think about populations that are at risk. We work with people with disabilities. We work with immigrants, low-income population, minority groups, individuals who have this often an extra barrier to achieve the American dream. And what I realize is, particularly as it relates to COVID-19, that these same processes and procedures and approaches that we look to help those who are somewhat marginalized, this is the same approach that for those who are impacted by COVID-19, that we really wanted to make sure that we were able to share our methodology and our approach for addressing these issues, particularly career pathways. How do you transition from where you are today into a career of your choosing? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and our strategy for doing that. And this is really one of the drivers for us in terms of being in position to share our thoughts in terms of how, if you're someone who's struggling to think about where your career is right now, you're not sure about your next steps, we really want to connect with you and offer you some support during this very difficult time. So quickly, let me just kind of summarize the end of this chart. Is basically what we are really focused on is not only just the workforce development aspect, right? We are also, as a big picture, we're focused on how do we improve the local community. And so helping in the workforce to create a very stable economy, to increase the tax base, provides more revenue for schools and roads and improves the community. And so we also work on youth development programs as well. And with those youth programs, what we really see is that youth programs, if we're not working with the youth, then there's going to be a residual effect where they're not going to have the opportunity. So we want to start young. And then making investments in the local community, establishing businesses, spending our revenue in those local communities, we know creates economic vitality. Okay, and so overall, as an organization, our mission is about improving the local community, helping those organizations that are providing human care services, and then ultimately making sure the services that support our target populations, as I talked about, those individuals who may be a little less fortunate than others, that is really our approach in terms of who we're trying to assist. And a lot of it has to do with their career and their education. So let me jump in a little bit more and talk a little bit about how we execute that. So this picture, I know there's a lot of moving parts here, so I'm going to take a few minutes just to kind of walk through, but this basically speaks to what we are trying to accomplish, right? And again, as I mentioned in terms of my own personal experience, what we're looking to do is help to automate as much of that process as possible to make sure that people understand how do you go from one stage to the next. And so we think about it as a professional maturity model. So let's say that you were impacted by COVID-19 and used to work at a retail store that's now closed. The question is, how do you transition to another career field, an in-demand career field? Let's say something like cybersecurity, right? You may have some understanding of technology, but you need some training. And so what we really look at are what are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you're going to need to become a professional, right? It's our slogan here at Kinetic Potential that everyone can go pro, right? That's not just for athletes. It's not just for entertainers. You can be a professional cybersecurity. in cybersecurity, right? A cybersecurity professional. We think that that's a great opportunity. And again, a growing field where right now we can't find enough people. So making the transition from retail to cybersecurity may sound like a good idea, but you're not sure how to do it. And so what we do is we look at where are we getting talent from, right? And we really focus, as I mentioned, on the K through 12 community and then our partners. And in this case, I'll talk a little bit more, but we're really focused right now on those who are impacted by COVID-19, the folks who are participating in today's webinar, that we're meeting through the workforce and unemployment process. Why? Because there's such a great need. We know that there's a lot of talent out there. And so we don't want people to actually leave their other position we don't want people leaving their jobs to secure our open positions. We really want to focus hiring talent that are currently unemployed, that have the skills and abilities that we can train and then teach them how our organization works. And ultimately start them out either as interns or as apprentices, and then take them through a deliberate development process so that they ultimately can come on board as professionals. And even if they don't come on board with us, they may go to another employer, like one of our other partners, maybe one of those government agencies that we're collaborating with. Or potentially they may go to another corporation that we're partner with, right? Because we are developing that talent, and we also need that talent for the services that we want to provide. Let me just go to another slide so I can talk a little bit more about that. So KP's talent supply chain, and what is a talent supply chain, right? That's that picture I was showing where we are bringing talent incrementally, excuse me, very deliberately, building those skills with a focus on them becoming professionals, joining our team, or joining another organization, because we are grooming them for that. And this picture, what this picture shows is that the services that we provide, right? Information assurance, when we're working with businesses to make sure that they have the confidence that their data is secure, and the integrity and the availability of that data. Well, we have to train people how to do that so we can provide that service to the marketplace. And so these talent portfolios represent the type of positions that we at KP are hiring for. And because we have the need for those positions, we also then must train people. And you see our KP apprentice programs at the bottom. We have to train people to have those skills and to be familiar with how do we approach these challenges. So if you look at this picture, what you'll see is that we are both an employer hiring people to actually deliver services, and we're also a trainer to actually develop your talent. And so that is a very unique aspect of, so that before you may join our team, you may engage with us in training so that you can demonstrate that you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities, okay? Let me just talk a little bit more about that and showcase that in a little different way. So again, when I talk about the services that we are delivering in the marketplace, right, what we do as a company, this is what creates the need for us to have additional staff members. And currently, this is why we are actually here having these webinars, because we are a growing company and we are creating more need for our services. This is going to allow us to actually hire in different positions. So let me just review some of the projects that we have and some of the roles that we need. And I think that this is always helpful to put things into context for people. So as an example, one of the things that we do, we are an occupational training provider for the Department of Labor. What does that mean? That means that if you're going through the unemployment office and you're one of a transitioning worker, or what often is referred to as a dislocated worker, that the government has created programs that allow people who are in that situation to actually get training for a certification. The thought process is, if you have to transition to another career field, another occupation, that gaining a certification would be extremely valuable and a key aspect of making that transition. Something that is recognized by the industry to say, hey, this person has that skill, right? They have that knowledge. They've gone through at least some level of training and they're prepared to begin entering into this field. And so for us, we are occupational training provider in cybersecurity. We also support project management, which is for us a combination of what PMI does as well as what Agile and Scrum. So today I won't get into exactly how we deliver all the training. My goal is today to give you an overview of what we are up to in terms of how we can help support you through the transition process. And also what kind of roles, what kind of jobs do we have at the end of that process? And I think that is the most critical. And one thing I didn't mention in one of the earlier slides in terms of the talent supply chain is that we're always thinking about this in terms of backward mapping, right? We call it reverse engineering. When we think about what the professional role is, what the job opportunity, the career opportunity, we want to look at the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are necessary for that role, and then backward map, how do we help build those skill sets over time? And obviously, the earlier we start working with someone, the better, but no matter where we meet you at, we will do an assessment of your current skill set and an inventory of that, and we will develop what we call a career game plan that will identify what knowledge and skills and abilities you need to know for a target occupation, and then just deliberately developing a set of goals and activities that will help you achieve that objective, okay? So for us as an occupational training provider in the Department of Labor, we have basically 4 roles that we're looking at, right? The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act is the legislation that provides the funding for the certifications. And so we are currently looking for multiple project managers to basically, and they really are program managers. They help us run those programs across the country. We are a national provider for these services. And so people who are playing in this role, they are experienced program managers, experienced project managers. All right. And so there are people who are going through training that may have some project management experience, and then we're helping them become program managers. The WIOA deputy account managers, we have lots of relationships with the American Job Centers across the country, and likely one in your area. Well, as we are developing more and more relationships, we need more and more people to help us manage those relationships, to work in the local community to make sure that people are aware of our services, understand how they work, and to help us promote those services and manage the relationships with the customer. Our talent advisors are really instrumental in terms of doing the development, doing the training, doing the education. I always think of them as a blend between an adjunct professor and your supervisor at your job and a coach, right? They're really trying to mentor you and advise you in terms of the occupation. They are senior professionals in whatever career field, cybersecurity, we have education, project management, and they've had a number of years under their belt in terms of actually implementing and executing in industry. So they make great guides in terms of helping you understand the technical content of what we're trying to teach you. And also for us, they are part of our evaluation process. And because when we are hiring, we need people who can help us evaluate talent. And this is why they're called talent advisors. And our star navigators, I'm going to save that for a second because I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we get toward the end of this presentation. But what you'll find is that this is one of the best assets for those who are unemployed. So I definitely want to spend some time with that. I'll just cover a couple of other areas just quickly and then move on with this presentation or this webinar, excuse me. The Department of Disability Administration. So as I mentioned, we are very concerned about populations that have an added barrier. And as you can think about it, people who have a handicap or some kind of developmental disability or developmental challenge, I prefer to say that, they need some extra support. And so across the country, we are a certified service provider for the Department of Disability Administration, meaning that we're helping people who are depending on this agency, and we're providing services to them. And there's a wide range of services that we provide, but some of the key roles that we need are personal care assistants, right? So someone who's living on their own, who may not be able to do all of the household functions or, take care of themselves and be fully independent. They need some support in terms of just kind of the day-to-day activities. I think of this as a step below someone who's a certified nursing assistant. But those people are also helping out with medication, but they're performing a similar function in terms of supporting those people with disabilities. We have people who are providing transportation, who are drivers, but all of these people have to have, even our drivers, they need training to make sure that they're on a career path. We don't want people to think about the work they do with us as a job. We want to be able to talk with you about a career with us. Where do you start? How do we develop you, and where are you going? So that's one of the things I'm most excited about the work that we do, is that we really are helping people evolve and continue to build. One of our other sayings around here is that lifelong learning equals lifelong earning. And so we really want to encourage people who are thinking about maybe joining our team or would like to join our team to understand that this is a place where you really have to invest, and we are going to invest in your development. Okay. The Department of Information Technology, we do provide consulting services. So because we're so actively engaged with things like Department of Labor, Department of Disability Administration, and as you can see below with school systems, we also want to build those organizations' capacity. And because our focus is around technology and management consulting, we often need project managers to help manage technology projects. And again, this is really where our cybersecurity information assurance comes in at, because each of these agencies have lots of data, and there are a lot of regulations and laws that they need to follow and be in compliance with in terms of how they protect that data. And we are here to help and assist them with that. And so we're certifying our consultants to make sure that they have the skill sets that they need to actually work on these projects. And then the last thing, we're working with public school systems across the country as a supplemental services provider in terms of academic services. So we're providing academic remediation and things like math and reading and science. We're providing tutorial services. And we're also providing our career and technology education. Because as I mentioned, we want to start very early in the pipeline in terms of that development approach. The earlier we can begin working with you to think about your career, the more we can help maximize some of the available resources for you. So like when you are in K through 12, we really want to make sure that our students and our portfolio that we're working with of students, that they're getting certifications before they leave high school, that they understand and they know about the resources for a dual degree program, and that they can get actually an associate's degree before they leave high school for no additional cost. So and our logic behind that is that if you are low income or if you're somehow marginalized, we really, and I think across the board, we really want to minimize the amount of financial capital that someone has to put out for their education, right, for their development. And so we need educators and instructors, right, people who are teaching. And then we also need what we call portfolio managers. And they're similar, I guess, to talent advisors, but a portfolio manager is thinking about a whole set of students and how do they maximize and increase their individual compensation, right? How can they help you build your annual compensation and increase that, right? And a lot of that has to do with what type of activities you're involved in, how are we building your skills, understanding the labor market, having relationship with other employers. And so think of them as a high-tech or guidance counselor, right? That really understands the industry, but they're applying this talent supply chain theory to really focus on where is the demand, who is hiring, and what is it that they would like to see from a development perspective. So the same way that we, KP, we think about it for our own talent in terms of how we develop our talent internally, our portfolio managers are thinking about that for other employers that have needs and that are hiring. Okay. So what does that mean? So that's kind of a little bit of background about who we are and what we're up to and the kind of services we provide. We take a very unique approach to developing our talent, and one of that is because our response to COVID-19. Obviously, this has been an unprecedented time that we haven't seen since the Great Recession. And we are very concerned about the impact on local communities, youth 16 to 24 that haven't really got started yet. Now they're competing with a lot of professionals with a lot of experience for fewer jobs. And so what is critical with that is that we are focusing on that population, that because we see them as a very high risk population where we really need to have, where we feel like we can have a very positive impact. And so what as an organization have we decided to do in response to COVID-19? Well, we want to focus on only the unemployed workers for our open careers. We believe that we can find the talent that's currently available and have a lot of social impact by putting those people to work. And how do we do that? Well, typically we partner with the American Job Centers, right? Because we're an occupational training provider, we are already connected with the American Job Centers. So what we do is we explain to our partners that we want to focus our hiring and recruitment through their queue of unemployed workers. And so this alliance with the American Job Centers is beneficial for us because obviously we're trying to hire talent. I think it's beneficial for them because they're the organization that's trying to place talent. And then for those of you who are here who are unemployed, it's beneficial for you because you are able to potentially go through this process and get hired. And one of the approaches, as I mentioned, is that the American Job Centers and the WIOA legislation will actually provide certification training. So we are, as an organization, as a trainer, as I mentioned, we actually provide this certification training. So independent if you land with us a job or one of our network, our KP network partners, or one of our customers, we're going to better position you for the workforce. We're going to increase your skill set by helping you prepare for an industry recognized certification. And I've listed the ones right now that are our target. We have several others that we're rolling out within the next 60 days. But right now we're really focusing on our project management and our cybersecurity offerings. The great thing about this is that, and a lot of people don't know this, is that the government will actually fund your training. The American Job Center will actually pay for you to get trained and to take a certification. So this is something that, again, we want to recommend to everyone who is unemployed to take advantage of this opportunity. It's really true that these things don't always come around, and who knows when they'll come around again. But while it's here, if you're in transition, it is a great, great resource. And for those who actually participate in our training and our certification process, we look at it as an elongated interview process, where once we certify you, once we help you get your certification, we're then going to give you an opportunity for experiential learning. What is experiential learning? Well, experiential learning is when once you go through a formal training course and you have acquired some knowledge, then you need an opportunity to demonstrate that you can apply that knowledge, that you have the skills and abilities. So we create what we say are mini projects that are related to one of the services that I discussed earlier, and give you an opportunity to work with our team and also with the talent advisor to guide you through how you can demonstrate that you can create value, right? Create value. Meaning, how can you, if you were an employee, this is an opportunity for you to demonstrate that you would be a great fit for our organization, that you are able to digest the learning, that you're able to keep up with the pace, because things here move very quickly. And so this is an opportunity for us, for you to get to know us and for us to get to know you. But ultimately, as you think about what most careers, and as you're transitioning, most job openings are looking for people with experience. And oftentimes I hear people say, well, how do I get the experience? Well, experiential learning, this is our approach for helping you gain that experience. And then we're providing career advisory services. And our career advisory services are to make sure that you understand, how do these careers and opportunities that we have, what are the paths and how do you grow? Because remember, here, lifelong learning equals lifelong earning. We want you to learn and grow and develop. And also, if you're not, maybe you're not interested in working for us, or you have your sights on a different industry than what we do. Maybe you're not as focused on social impact in the way that I've been described in the work that we do. Well, that's fine. Well, we work with lots of partners. We work with lots of government agencies, as I just mentioned on the slide before. And therefore, these organizations are part of a network and we are working collaboratively. And so it's not just your opportunity to showcase for us, but we can be an advocate with one of our partners to say, hey, maybe we don't have, this is not a right fit for us, but this person was stellar. And so we always advise people, if you do decide to take our training, know that it's always a time for you to give it 100%, okay? Because you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself, and someone's always watching, okay? So that's just my 2 cents that I always like to give to everyone. In terms of our Star Navigator services, I think I'm most proud of the work we're doing of this. And I have one slide that I would like to speak to just about the Star Navigator services. Star Navigator is actually a virtual concierge service for the unemployed. We know that right now, after COVID hit and the economy shut down, our workforce partners, their technology, we're just overwhelmed. And we heard the stories of people in long queues waiting for 15 and 16 and 20 hours just to find out that they had to go through another process, or trying to get through and create an account on the internet, one of the applications to file for unemployment, but the system crashing and not being available. And so we want to be able to help people navigate, because the other thing is, a lot of people aren't sure. You're in this situation for the first time. You're not really sure what to do. Where do you go? Who do you call? What do you do first? And so because this is an area of expertise for us, we've decided to actually train a lot of our staff to actually provide the support to undergird those who are unemployed. So, and we're actually going to provide 1,000 people with free navigation services for a full year, okay? So what else do these Star Navigators do? Well, they assist with navigating the process and connecting with the American Job Centers. That's the #1 thing, because one of the first steps if you become unemployed is to go through the unemployment office. Make sure that you're receiving some subsidies to help sustain yourself, but also to understand, what do you do first? Where do you go? What forms you need to fill out? What information you need to have? And to understand what resources are available to you. So our team are experts in understanding, not only understanding, but also learning and researching resources for the unemployed. I mentioned the WIOA certification training. That's something that we find that lots of people don't know about, because if you haven't been unemployed, you probably haven't been engaging with the WIOA legislation at all. And once you need it, you're focusing much more on the immediate focus of getting yourself back into the workforce. And so that's one thing that we certainly know. And there are a lot of other aspects of the WIOA legislation that could be very beneficial for folks. Also, things like financial assistance for childcare. Childcare is such a huge issue with the schools being closed. and your kids having to do school online, parents trying to find a job. So there needs to be some support so that you have the time and capacity to actually do your job search, to do your development, to put yourself in a stronger position in the workforce. And then debit cards for groceries. And a lot of people don't know that these services exist, but those who do are being able to reap the benefit. So our star navigators can help you connect with these resources in a way that may be more challenging for you to do on your own. And not only that, to be just because it may be more challenging, but because you may just have too much to do to try to focus your attention. We want you to focus your attention on your professional development. During this period of transition, we want you to be able to really, really hone in and give it your best effort, because remember, you never know when the opportunity is going to present itself. So we want to try to remove as many barriers, as take off as much pressure as we can by doing some of that research for you, helping you make appointments, things that we can do to assist you. We're glad to try. So I always think about this as a virtual concierge service. And for those of you guys who end up collaborating with us or getting involved with our program, you'll learn a lot more about that. And the Star Navigators don't end once you just get into your training. You know, as I mentioned, we want to provide that service for at least a year to help you through that transition. Because if you've been out of work for a while, it takes a little time to kind of get back into the rhythm and for things to kind of settle down. And so the Star Navigators are available to assist you, and they're just here particularly for our unemployed. So that gives you a little bit of overview in terms of who we are as Kinetic Potential, what our STAR initiative is about, and how our STAR Navigators can help you navigate this process of unemployment and getting you connected to resources, most importantly, for the WIOA legislation and the certifications, the in-demand certifications. So if you're interested in learning more, right, this is much more of an informational service, but if you're interested in learning more, what you should do is email us at star@kpconnect.com. And in your subject line, please put STAR Initiative and put your full name. And I've given you an example with mine. And then we'd like to have the following information, because this will allow us to know who we should connect you with, what Star Navigator we're going to assign to your case. What career occupation are you interested in? Right now, we're focusing on project management and cybersecurity. What geographic location are you? With really the city and state, because that will dictate what American Job Center, and again, what staff member we assign to you. And then if you're already currently working with an American Job Center, please tell us which one, the name of the job center or the address of the job center. We can look it up from there. And then who your career counselor is. They may be called other things. They call support specialists in some locations, but the person who is coordinating with you, we would love to be able to know who that is so that we can then begin to collaborate with that person on your behalf. And then the last thing is, please provide your contact information. You know, obviously, if you email us, we'll assume that's the email that you would like us to use. But if there's something different, please provide that to us. And then your phone number so that we can get in contact with you should we have any questions. And once you send us that information within a couple of days, you should expect to hear from a Star Navigator to actually contact you, learn a little bit more about you, what we call our intake process, and discuss next steps. So with that said, let me turn it over to my colleagues here who are graciously here to actually answer any questions. And several of these guys are Star Navigators. So they are here, again, to kind of start that process off and make sure that if you have any questions, they can answer them. I really appreciate your time and taking a couple of minutes to just actually participate in this webinar today. I really understand and we feel the pain of so many people out in the communities. And what we're hoping to do is that you can see that as a company, we really want to support the smart train back to the American recovery. So I thank you so much, and we hope to hear from you.